So the last couple of speakdoms have been focused on the current events of the world, because why not, right? And this global pandemic. Don't really want to talk too much about it, and at the same time, I kind of do want to talk about it, but more so to talk to you about, what you can do and things of that nature, and what you can do, and kind of maybe help out a little bit just through my words. Obviously, I can't fix this problem. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to whip out a chemistry kit. I'm not a doctor. And if you're going through something right now, I can't physically come do anything. But I wanted to make this video following up the last two videos to kind of, I guess maybe tell a story or say something that will kind of put things into perspective. The last video I did was about lessons learned during these times, which is basically about what we can learn as people to better ourselves. And even though this is uncharted territory, right? This COVID-19 thing is uncharted for the world, in that we've had things that are similar to this, but not quite like this, especially in our generation during our lifetime. It's still something to where it's an obstacle. And when you kind of look at this as like an obstacle, when you look at this as sort of, a thing that we have to overcome, it becomes a little bit easier to overcome. Now, like I've said in my last couple of videos, this corona thing is very real. It's not fake. I know people who I know in real life, not internet charlatans, actual real life friends, one of which who had this thing, and a friend of mine's uncle has it, and they're worried that if they pass, they can't even fly to go see them and attend the funeral, because the way that the flights are now, that they're thinking about the whole quarantine, they might not be able to see it in time, and they're kind of scared, and there's a very big sense of panic right now. And unfortunately, when people panic, they end up being irrational. And when you're irrational, you could sometimes behave like, well, a prick, right? That's just how it is. We've all been there. But when you look at this for what it is, as an obstacle, is it a very big obstacle? Maybe. It's definitely something that's a little bit more serious than I think some people are giving it credit for. I do feel like it probably is best to take care of yourself, obviously hygienally, washing yourself and washing your hands, staying indoors as much as possible, not going to public events. You're talking to somebody right now who's a rebel. When this whole thing first started about a month ago, I was like, screw that. I'm not a pussy. I'm going to fly. Then when I started doing the research myself, and no matter what, media sources are all very contradictory on this, but no matter what, it's a very serious thing. And when I knew somebody who had this, like when they told me they had it, changed everything, changed my whole perspective, right? And they're not an old person either. So this thing is very easy to spread, and so it's best that we do what we can during these times to stop the spread, not just for ourselves but for our fellow man. But the point of this video is this, okay? I say reason and way, but I combine the two words there. The point of this speak-them is to say this, it is just an obstacle. It is something that we have to overcome, but it might be a big one. And so a lot of times in the past, I've talked about short-term pain, long-term gain, or long-term pain, short-term gain. There's different philosophies here. And one of the things I said in one of my videos a long time ago, this is old. I think I said it maybe 4 years ago. So if you are new, you probably have not heard this, but I basically equated pain to being this rubber band. You know what I mean? And by the way, you're talking to somebody right now who has been in chronic nerve pain, very, very bad nerve pain for 4 years. And I'm on lots of medication for it, and it's getting worse. I've talked about this on social media before, and I don't like complaining about it on here. I hate complaining about my problems, but it is real. It's very real, and it's affecting my life tremendously. And so, most of the time, things like this, where we have to be, not necessarily quarantined, but socially distant. And trust me, we all miss what we miss. I miss sports. I miss going out. I miss going to restaurants. I miss having sushi made right in front of me. I miss all of those things. I miss meeting my friends. My birthday's coming up in 2 weeks. I was supposed to have a big group hang out with my friends, and I'm not going to have that anymore because of this. And And it's not just me, it's everybody else. We're all suffering. And there's those out there who are having difficulty breathing, who have relatives who are sick from this. It's a very serious thing. But it is something that if we do what we can as people, individually, if we individually take care of ourselves and our families, this is not going to last forever. I don't believe it will. And like I said, what I was kind of talking about a minute ago is on that old video, I talked about how life is sort of like a timeline. Like, picture your life as sort of like a timeline, right? So today, which is early April, that's today. That's right now. But think about the fact that there's a very good chance you're going to live beyond early April, and think about, let's say, October. So if you picture your life like a timeline, April 2020, you're quarantined or social distanced, and then like December or October 20. I think this is October 2020. All of this is a lot better. We can go out again. It'll probably be sooner than that, but I'm using this as an example, just picking two random dates here, and life will start to get back to normal again. If you remember that, then by the time you're in October, you may have other problems, but this problem won't be as bad, And that's kind of the whole thing, is that pain is only temporary, when it comes to, like I said, stuff like this. Being stuck at home or distancing yourself from people, yeah, it sucks, but there's a lot worse things. And one of the worst things is getting sick. Supposedly when you get this thing, you have trouble breathing. It affects your lungs. And I grew up having bronchitis. So if I get this thing, that could be the end of me. And I'm dead ass when I tell you that. That could be it for me. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even 40 years old. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm not even close to 40. Closer than many of you, but I'm not that close. But because of the bronchitis and lung issues I had when I was a kid, right? Whenever I get sick, which I have a pretty decent immune system, I only get sick once a year usually, it ends up affecting my phlegm and my lungs a lot, so I end up coughing a lot, and it's hell for me for at least like a week or so. And, it's bad. So getting this would be just terror for me, right? Just horrible. For me specifically. So it's better to be cooped up in the house and at least have internet and at least have, I have books here, at least have video games or whatever you may have at your house, family, whatever you have, family, friends, kids, parents, or TV, Netflix, video games, whatever board games, whatever you like. That's better than getting sick and having trouble breathing. Because when you have trouble breathing, that's a scary, scary, scary thing. You ever been like at a swimming pool or at the beach and you go underwater, you hold your breath? When you start hitting those last few seconds where you can hold your breath, it gets kind of scary. Your whole body shakes, your heart starts to pump, it gets scary. That's a feeling I never want to feel, And so because of that, I don't want to get sick. So it's one of those things where people have been bitching and moaning about this, and I understand why, but it's better to be safe than sorry in this instance. And like I said, I'm a rebel, but I know people who have had it, and I'd rather not deal with that right now. So what we can do and what I can kind of tell you is take this as like an experience of, okay, this is not going to last forever. And if you focus, if you have your peripheral vision set towards the future, if you have your vision set towards what's going to end up happening later on and how this will all be okay and life will go back to normal again, it may end up giving you comfort in knowing it's only temporary. You know what I mean? Just realize that, in a few months, this will be a memory. In a few years, it will definitely be a memory. And that's, I think, a good mentality to have. Just remember that life's a timeline, and whatever pain you may be having now might not necessarily be there in the future. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm not a doctor, and there's already conflicting reports about vaccines and this, that, and the third, cures, all that. I know people are working very hard to fix this, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey, all we can do as individuals, at least the very least we can do. And I know that there's problems. I know that people have a lot of stresses. Am I going to be able to pay my rent, my electric, my cable? I understand that. I have the same stress as everybody else has. We're all in this together as people. You have to understand that it's not going to be here forever. And I've been in situations in my life where I've been faced with adversity. I've been faced with death a lot in my life, which is a pain that might never end when you have a family member, especially a parent, die. And I've been faced with, homelessness and things like that, which is way worse than this. I would rather be quarantined for a year than be homeless for 3 months. You know what I'm saying? I mean that. I would rather be at home from X hour to X hour for a whole year than be homeless. There's a big difference. So somebody like me who's had a lot of rough experiences kind of views this differently. Some people out there are very spoiled, and what I've been trying to say is this should teach us not to take things for granted. Like after this is all over, when life goes back to normal again, now maybe we'll learn to not take things for granted and to really appreciate these moments we have with each other in public or together in large gatherings or even small gatherings, even parties and things like that. It's not about getting drunk and getting laid, man. It's about experiencing other people and feeling comfort around them, and being made to feel good. So just remember, just remember this is only temporary. And keep your eyes focused, or try to as much as possible, on the fact that it will be over. Just in the meantime, we deal with it as people. We have to deal with it together. And then afterward, we'll be happy again. And hopefully we'll learn from this as a civilization. And hopefully we'll be better towards each other afterward. That's the only thing I can think of that, like I said in the past, can actually be a good thing out of this. That the aftermath might end up being a positive situation. But in the meantime, just remember to stay focused on the future, because obviously you want to live for the moment sometimes, but right now life is kind of on pause. Just remember that at some point that pause button will be unpaused and we can finish the game. So that's an interesting metaphor. Anyways, that's it. Let me know what you think. And thank you, and take care of yourself. Seriously.